Why don't we go up to my office?
Why did you make that deal?
Mandy, I don't think you can leave your car right here.
Shut up! Why did you make that deal?
It's just until after the midterms, Mandy.
Lloyd!
Keep the bill in committee till after the midterms, and that way...
And that way, the White House doesn't have to veto it until nobody's looking.
Well...
We wanted people to be looking.
Senator, we really should be moving along here.
Lloyd, why? Why did you go to breakfast to make that deal?
They offered us a good spot at the nominating convention.
Excuse me?
That's true. I might nominate the president.
Possibly keynote.
But definitely something in prime time.
Lloyd, of course they offered you something good at the nominating convention. They don't want you to get nominated at the nominating convention.
Settle down.
The bill was our coming out party. We were going to have the stage for a month. It was our Nessun Dorma.
What the hell's Nessun Dorma? Italian aria by Wagner.
It's Puccini. Wagner's German and you're a moron.
Excuse me, ma'am, is everything all right?
No, everything is not all right. I left a job at a top-tier marketing firm where I had stock options to come down here and get this guy elected president. But he went to breakfast this morning and made a deal to bottle up 443 until after the midterm election.
Yes, Mandy is the true psycho, without doubt. Hey guys and girls, welcome back. I am bored now, and I return to the West Wing for the second episode of the first season. So the second episode is called Post Hoc Ergo Propter Hoc. And in case you're wondering and haven't seen the episode, it's what the president uses as a Latin phrase to explain why he may be unpopular with Texans, rather than an off-the-cuff remark about him not looking good in big hats. September the 29th, 1999. It is again directed by Thomas Schumacher, and it's written by Aaron Sorkin. On IMDb, it has an average rating of 8.0. Nielsen ratings, it got about 13.7, so that's actually a bit of a drop from the first episode, which got more like 16. So that's interesting. Maybe a little bit of a slow burn for some people. I'm going to get the Mandy stuff out of the way because I played the clip. It is really cringe. This is when she goes full blown off the handle, in your face psychopath, crashes the car, ran at her boss, a current employee and lover, by the way. She's having an affair with that guy. He didn't go with her strategy, but the way she reacts is like a total psychopath, over the top yuppie. She starts screaming about stock options, and she is really OTT. And Mandy is her worst enemy in this scene. I have no sympathy. The scene is just a little bit cartoony. So after that scene, Mandy and her roommate mope around their apartment for the majority of the rest of the episode because they're basically out on their can. It seems like the roommate deals with her like business ventures, so it seems like because Mandy's now out of a job, having burnt that bridge, then it seems like her roommate is going to suffer, at least for the rest of the episode, before Mandy gets a job. A reluctant Josh gives her a job as the media advisor later on in the episode after being coded into it by Leo and the rest of them. And that's the highlight of the stuff, really. You know, him coming in, laying down the law, saying to Leo before he leaves, I'm going to draw a map with arrows, and the repeated phrase, she answers to me, she answers to Toby. That's the highlight of this stuff. But yeah, you get a couple of scenes of Mandy and her roommate moping around their dimly lit, cheap, late 90s looking apartment. Mandy keeps droning on about how, I think she mentions the stock options again, but droning on about how she had a high education and a degree and she was really going places, and now she's not, until finally Josh stumbles in and offers her a job with the President of the United States. And he lays down the law, and it's quite cute actually, the way the roommate jumps in before Mandy starts going OTT again, and she does hit him playfully, and the roommate says, what are the rules? basically we'll take it. Mandy stuff is pretty tedious in this episode. She does go OTT. And you know what? Them hanging around that apartment and the look of the apartment and some of the yuppie stuff from Mandy in this episode, who is the true villain, reminds me of the tedious 80s, early 90s show 30-somethings.
Yeah, she's here. She was just going to take a bath. You want to wait a second? I can check.
No. I just wanted to return this. Could you leave this down here? Hi, Janie.
Killing me.
You really don't have to explain taking a bath.
I know, I just don't want you to think that I...
What?
Well, I don't want you to think that I hire a sitter just to take a bath.
Well, why not, if you can?
Well, I can't. Well, I guess maybe I can, but I don't.
Okay, you don't. Look, I just...
Outside of the annoying Mandy stuff, this is a mostly solid episode with some intriguing subplots. So one of the big subplots is the stuff with Navy, actually Surgeon, but Morris, who he takes a shine to. Morris has a young family which the president enjoys talking about and fatherly advice as an older perspective, but also Bartlett in this episode has a lot of concerns about fragile situations abroad and the prospect of war, and just as still he's only in his first term as president, so he's very nervous about making the wrong sort of impact and not being able to act like a leader. Feels most comfortable actually talking about it with his surgeon, with Morris, almost outside of the high pressure hustle and bustle of dealing with it with the officials and the hires up and his team and things like that. And Morris gives him some nice grounded advice about, you're a unique voice in this generation, just stay calm, lead by example, these people respect you. And that actually gives the president confidence. But what this scene is really doing and setting up, as we see his close bond with his surgeon, is that by the end of the episode he receives news that Morris has been killed when returning to duty abroad. Comes out of the blue, it comes as a real shock. And Leo says sources suggest the helicopter he was in was gunned down by the Syrians. So that raises the ire of the president. He wants to speak to Morris's family, his young wife, and tell her the news. That final line to Leo before going to ring Morris's widow now, he has that line about, I am not afraid, I will blow them out the skies, basically. So it's strong stuff, and it's an important moment for the president in how he deals with this stuff, and it's something which continues into the next episode as a big storyline, because he tells Leo to get the officials and the team assembled in the war room to understand in the heat of the moment how Bartlett feels and his strong emotions when he makes that comment to Leo at the end of the episode. And some of this stuff and how the West Wing handles it, how the characters handle it, is quite an intriguing thing to watch, especially now in a post 9/11 world, because the West Wing, of course, the first couple of seasons took place pre 9/11. Very natural scene with Morris earlier in the episode is just a good little tease, and then it sort of shows you how you can be talking to someone, respectful, interesting conversation earlier in the day, and then he gets the tragic news later on. So it plays out very naturally and effective. Get the first real mention of John Hoynes, who is the vice president, who I know has some big storylines moving forward. And he's played by, I forget the actor's name off the top of my head, but he was quite a big actor in some of these sort of teen type comedies from the 80s, suggesting that the president should A3C3, I just looked it up, then he should take that serious. So it's sort of a pointed comment which is made to maybe stir a bit of tensions in the issue. And this is when CJ has a morning press conference. And first of all, we see why CJ is so good at her job. It's the first example, and how she befriends the press corps to get them on her side in many ways. But she does remember the birthday of one of the members of the press, says we've got a birthday today. And I like this from CJ because it feels like it's very sincere and it's a nice gesture that she remembers a member of the press's birthday. It does feel like they are like a tight-knit little family up to a point, as much as he can be. But also I think it is a bit of a strategy to like keep them on side and, you know, kind of ease them into the morning press conference where CJ will have a couple of like sticky quite tight questions. So it does show you it's an early example of why CJ is very good at her job. And it's during that morning press conference where a journalist who looks a lot like Perd Hapley out of Parks and Rec, maybe a young Perd Hapley, gives her the question about Hoynes and his comment earlier in the day. CJ in the scene does a good job of like batting it away because she says, I haven't talked to Hoynes, the vice president, yet today, so I can't comment on that. But then she goes to Hoynes later on in the episode and he gives her a brush off. Leads to probably the best scene of the whole episode, which is Leo and the vice president, where Leo lays down the law.
Did you blow off CJ Craig this morning?
Leo.
I'm asking.
Is that what this is about?
Did you?
You know what? CJ doesn't need to come running to you every time she hits a bump.
CJ didn't come running, John. She covered your ass. She's a good girl. And when she tells you something, I want you to consider it a directive from this office.
You want me to consider it a directive from this office?
Yes.
Well, let me consult Article 2 of the Constitution, because I'm not 100% sure where this office gets the authority to direct me to the men's room.
You really want to do this now?
Leo, I have had it up to here with you and your pal. I got shoved into a broom.
Excuse me. Me and my pal?
Yes.
You are referring to President Bartlett?
Yes.
Refer to him that way.
Good night, Leo.
Don't do what you're doing, John.
You're a world-class political operative, Leo. Why the hell shouldn't I keep on doing what I've been doing?
'Cause I'll win, and you'll end up playing celebrity golf the rest of your life.
How long do you expect me to stick around here and be his whipping boy?
Give this president anything less than your full-throated support, and you're going to find out exactly how long.
Good night, Leo.
Good night, John.
It's a brilliant scene, and boy did Leo take him to task. And it shows you, first of all, what a great actor John Spencer was. He's so good in the scene. That's like the first really big dramatic scene he's had in the show. He absolutely nails it. And it's a great insight to the character because he is the buffer between the president and everyone else. He is like the president's right-hand man. And he shows you why he's so good at that job, how important he is to the whole process, because he can be very balanced, level-headed. We see relaxed side to Leo's along the way, but he in some ways has the most important job in the White House and has to balance so many things. He also shows how ruthless and tough he can be and how he can lay down the law. President Hoynes feels very entitled and that he takes the president and the White House for granted. Now, they get a bit more into that later on about why he maybe has this cavalier type attitude, but there's the impression in that scene that he feels that he can make these off-the-cuff remarks and he can maybe fly by the seat of his pants a little bit, and it's okay. He'll always be covered for. And Leah's making it clear that, no, it's not okay. We can make you pay. We can show you the door. There are ways to deal with you if you continue to not support the president and make these like passive aggressive comments. I love the reaction to me and my pal, that line, and the celebrity golf line was fantastic. So it does show you like there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of rage in that scene from Leo, and it shows you that he can be intimidating, both the actor and the character, when he needs to be. A lot of intriguing stuff moving forward with Hoynes and his relationship with the president and the White House in general. So there's a lot of good stuff to come with that later on, and with Laurie. So in this episode, it's the first time he really tells anybody in the White House. To Josh, first of all, sorry. And Josh doesn't really know how to handle it. He's a little bit flustered, but he's actually quite laid back under the circumstances. And he says, have you told anyone else about this? No, you're the first person. So Sam directs him towards Toby. It's best to, because Toby's involved with like the communication side. Toby's a lot more, oh God, Sam, what have you done? He's a lot more harsh with Sam, and we get the deadpan Toby stuff, the reactions and things like that, because Sam says it was accidental. He's like, oh, I don't understand. Did you slip? Did you not know? He asked for money. Sam's like, she didn't ask for money. And there's some fun humour in there to do with the distinction of Sam calling Laurie a cool gal. Not a hooker, she's a cool gal. And Toby's like, oh, I'm sure that distinction will be important when we tell the president. And he's quizzing Sam about who else you have told, who else knows. And Sam is being very, like, sensitive but also quite naive because he wants to befriend Laurie, and you know, he doesn't want to be a jerk that just brushes her off. And he has this great line about, just because I'm I'm an adult with a job with responsibilities doesn't mean a nice girl should suffer, or something along that line. It's a good line, but Sam's obviously put Toby in quite an awkward position, and Toby's not too happy about it because Sam wants to talk about her, like, can I give her a phone call? And Toby's like, no, you can't. You're going to try and reform her, right? You're going to try and be her hero. Sam actually approaches Laurie in quite an inappropriate way. She's actually calling herself Brittany for that particular date, but she's out on quite a flash dinner date with some rich clients. Sam approaches her and embarrasses her a little bit in front of the clients, so she goes outside to have a word. She's not very happy. Sam has also phoned her 4 times. We find out that in the scene, and she hasn't returned his calls, which is why he's gone. So once again, we see that maybe there's a little bit of inexperience on Sam's part here, or that maybe he's not accustomed to dealing with this kind of situation. And like, clearly he's trying to be a very nice guy and trying to be fair to Laurie as well, and they have a bit of a heart-to-heart because she calls him out on the same thing that Toby said about, you're going to try and change me, you're going to try and save me, right? Well, there's no need, because I do like the line, I make more money than you do. It's my choice, okay? It's my decision to do this stuff. No one made me, so you don't need to save me. She also mentions how she's like planning on going to law school. Things get a bit heated, but eventually they come around to each other, and she agrees to let Sam buy her a drink, and there's a little bit of banter about like state secrets. Sam's like, it's okay, I don't know any, and you see how charming Rob Lowe can be in that scene, but at first he is getting a bit ahead of himself. He's flying off the handle. Maybe he is being a little bit patronising towards Laurie. Like, it maybe shows how old-fashioned his views are on this kind of thing. So it gets into those kinds of areas, these sort of areas that makes you think about like the idea of like being a prostitute, a cool gal, whatever you want to say, and the whole aspect of, as long as they know what they're doing and it's their decision, is there really any harm in it? And Laurie at least has a plan moving forward. She wants to become a lawyer. She wants to have like that kind of career moving forward, and is starting to take the steps to actually do that. So I think for some people that's like the best of both worlds. Expected career, but you can also support yourself because you can make a pretty good wage as a lawyer too. I think he was a little hurt she didn't return his calls, and that's why he did what he did. But he did act a little bit rash, and we're going to see more of this stuff come out in the coming episodes, and it's definitely a very interesting early subplot. Is my review of Post Hoc Aereo Proctor Hoc. And I will give it a lower score this time. I'll give it a 6.5. Still a solid episode, still some good stuff going on in it, but overall it's not as strong, I don't think, as the pilot. and I will be ranking these episodes as I go along, so this is quite easy. The pilot's number 1 and episode 2 is number 2 at the moment. But thanks for listening. I will return with episode 3, a review of that, coming soon on the channel in the next week. By the way, I'll give MVP to Leo. This week I'll go with Leo because I really like that scene with Hoynes, and I really like how he took Hoynes to task and put him in his place, just reminded him of the role and the hierarchy. CJ also had a good episode because I really liked the press conference scene, and it was a good snapshot of what she can do and why she's effective in her role as press officer. But I'll give it to Leo. He sort of scene, a very sort of effective scene, and the actor John Spencer doing a great job. Him and Hoynes have a really intriguing dynamic moving forward. So MVP is Leo. Let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. I will return soon. Thanks for listening. You can also support the channel on patreon.com/borednow, or you can support me channel membership, 3 different tiers, and I'll link that in the description to this video. But keep watching TV, keep watching The West Wing, and I'll see you again soon.